Νομίζω ότι έχουμε μια πολύ ωραία συντροφιά και θα παρακαλέσω τον πρόεδρο της κοινότητάς μας, τον κύριο Κουνούπια, να ξεκινήσει τη συνάντησή μας.
Κύριοι ακροατές, καλησπέρα σας. Σας καλωσορίζω σε αυτήν, νομίζω, το τέταρτο σεμινάριο, η πέμπτον Βασίλη. Πάντως, θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω τον καθηγητή, τον κύριο Δημητρίο Μπουχάλη, ο οποίος δέχτηκε την πρόσκληση του Βασίλη για να παρουσιάσει την απόψινή βραδιά, και επίσης στον ίδιο τον καθηγητή, τον Βασίλη τον Παπαλόη, ο οποίος πήρε την πρωτοβουλία για αυτά τα webinars και ο οποίος τα οργανώνει. Ο Βασίλης δυστυχώς κάθε φορά παρουσιάζει κάτι το καλύτερο από την προηγούμενη και σίγουρα θα είναι πάρα πολύ δύσκολο να κρατήσουμε αυτόν το επίπεδο πάντα, όμως είμαι αισιόδοξος ότι ο Βασίλης θα το πετύχει. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, Βασίλη και κύριε Μπουχάλη. Όσον αφορά την κοινότητα μας, βλέπω ανθρώπους οι οποίοι είναι νέοι, δεν έχουν συναντηθεί μαζί μας προηγουμένως. Να σας πω δύο λόγια για την κοινότητα του Αγίου Γεωργίου. Η κοινότητα μας έχει ιδρυθεί πριν 60 χρόνια. Του χρόνου, κατά ακρίβεια, θα είναι τα 60 χρόνια της κοινότητας. Και ενώ άρχισε με κάπου 15-20 άτομα, οι οποίοι χρησιμοποιούσαν μια αγγλική εκκλησία στο Χαμ, τώρα είναι μια κοινότητα γύρω στα 250 μέλη και πολύ περισσότερος κόσμος έρχεται στην εκκλησία που δεν είναι μέλη της κοινότητας. Έχουμε δική μας εκκλησία, χτίσαμε δικό μας σχολείο, έχουμε μια πολύ ενεργή φιλόπτωχο και ένα σπουδαίο food bank, τράπεζα τροφίμων. Τους τελευταίους 6 μήνες, θα έλεγα, συνεχίζουμε συνεχώς να βελτιώνουμε τις εγκαταστάσεις μας. Δηλαδή, έχει 20-25 χρόνια που έχουμε αναμελήσει κάπως τα κτίρια μας. Τώρα, και αυτήν τη βδομάδα, θα αλλάξουμε όλα τα παραθύρια με double glazing στην μεγάλη αίθουσα. Την ερχόμενη εβδομάδα επίσης θα αλλάξουμε το μουσαμά στο διάδρομο. Έχουμε πρόγραμμα για ορισμένες άλλες αναβαθμίσεις και βελτιώσεις. Και ο Θεός βοηθός, τα λεφτά έρχονται μέσα από τις εκδηλώσεις μας. Είχαμε ένα σπουδαίο πανήγυρι, διότι φέτος η ημέρα του Αγίου Γεωργίου ήταν Κυριακή και ήρθαν και πάρα πολλοί κόσμος από άλλες κοινότητες. Το Πάσχα ήταν γεμάτη και η εκκλησία και η αίθουσα και κόσμος απ' έξω. Και είναι αυτοί που μας έχουν ενισχύσει και μπορούμε να κάνουμε όλα αυτά που κάνουμε. Πιο μεγάλη μας επιτυχία φέτος, χωρίς αμφιβολία, είναι η Τράπεζα Τροφίμων, η οποία μέχρι στιγμής έχει παραδώσει φαγητών σε άνω από 7.000 φτωχούς και άστεγους και έκανε και τόση καλή εντύπωση στον σεβασμιότατο, τον Αρχιεπίσκοπο μας, ο οποίος μας σύστησε σε μια φιλανθρωπική οργάνωση στην Αμερική, η οποία τότε μας έδωσε $15,000 και αυτή. Και από μήνα σε μήνα αυξάνεται η προσπάθεια και η παράδοση αυτής της Τράπεζας Τροφίμων. Και είμαστε παράδειγμα, όπως μας έχει πει ο Αρχιεπίσκοπος, είμαστε το παράδειγμα και σε άλλες κοινότητες. Θα καλέσει σύντομα μία συνεδρίαση των προέδρων όλων των κοινοτήτων για να τους εξηγήσουμε κι εμείς πώς αρχίσαμε την Τράπεζα Τροφίμων, πώς κάτι για το οποίο είμαστε πάρα πολύ περήφανοι και ευχαριστούμε όλον τον κόσμο που έχει βοηθήσει μέχρι στιγμής. Η φιλόπτωχος μας βοηθάει το τοπικό νοσοκομείο του Kingston, το Royal Marsden Cancer Hospital, το Shooting Star, το οποίο είναι Children's Hospice, μία άλλη οργάνωση που είναι Children's Charity Ballet for Bereavement, και βοηθάμε και κόσμο της κοινότητάς μας, ο οποίος έχει οικονομικές δυσκολίες. Προπάντως, όταν είχαμε την πανδημία, θάψαμε νομίζω 5 άτομα, πληρώσαμε για την κηδεία τους, διότι ο Δήμος ήθελε τότε να τους κάψουν, ήταν να κάνουν cremation, ενώ η θρησκεία μας δεν το επιτρέπει και ο κόσμος δεν είχε αρκετά λεφτά για να αγοράσει και τάφον και να κάνει, και πλήρωσε η κοινότητα. Αυτά δεν τα διαφημίζουμε, ούτε λέμε ποιους βοηθάμε, όμως είναι ένας από τους κύριους ρόλους που υπάρχουμε. Είναι ο ρόλος ένας λόγος που υπάρχουμε, για να είμαστε χριστιανοί στην πράξη και όχι μόνο στα λόγια. Ευχαριστώ όλους τους ακροατές οι οποίοι είναι μαζί μας απόψε. Ελπίζω θα σας έχουμε μαζί μας πάντα. Σας ευχαριστώ όλους και παραδίνω το λόγο στον συνάδελφο, τον Βασίλη Παπαλόη.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, Χαράλαμπε, για μια πολύ εμπεριστατωμένη παρουσίαση των δραστηριοτήτων της κοινότητας, οι οποίες αυξάνονται καθημερινά και, όπως είπες, είναι στην υπηρεσία όλης της κοινότητας, της ευρύτερης κοινότητας, και όλοι οι φίλοι και οι φίλες που μας ακούνε είναι πάντα ευπρόσδεκτοι να έρθουν κοντά μας και να συνεργαστούν μαζί μας για αυτούς τους πάρα πολύ σοβαρούς σκοπούς. Just a couple of housekeeping things πριν ξεκινήσουμε. Όπως είπα, θερμή παράκληση όλοι να έχουν κλειστές τις κάμερες και τα μικρόφωνα στη διάρκεια της παρουσίασης του καθηγητή του κυρίου Μπουχάλη. Όταν θα έρθει η ώρα για τη συζήτηση, βεβαίως μπορείτε να ανοίξετε και να παρουσιάσετε τον εαυτό σας και να κάνετε τις ερωτήσεις σας. Και επίσης, εάν δεν υπάρχει αντίρρηση από το ακροατήριο, το webinar θα γίνει recorded και πηγαίνει στην ιστοσελίδα της κοινότητάς μας, ούτως ώστε να μπορούν να το παρακολουθήσουν και όσοι φίλοι δεν μπόρεσαν να είναι μαζί μας απόψε. Εάν δεν δω κάποια αντίρρηση, δεν ακούσω κάποια αντίρρηση, θα προχωρήσουμε με το recording του webinar. Ωραία. Ευχαριστούμε. Είναι μεγάλη χαρά και τιμή να έχουμε μαζί μας απόψε στο webinar της κοινότητάς μας τον καθηγητή, τον κύριο Δημήτρη Μπουχάλη. Θα σας παρουσιάσω το βιογραφικό του εν συντομία, γιατί το βιογραφικό του είναι τεράστιο και θα χρειαστούμε το υπόλοιπο από το βράδυ για να μπορέσουμε να το παρουσιάσουμε ολόκληρο, αλλά για να σας βάλω στην εικόνα των τεράστιων δραστηριοτήτων του, όπως αυτές παρουσιάζονται από το Πανεπιστήμιο του Bournemouth, όπου υπηρετεί έγκριτα εδώ και πολλά χρόνια. Professor Dimitrios Buhalis is strategic management and marketing expert with specialization in information communication technology applications in the tourism, travel, hospitality, and leisure industries. He is director of eTourism Lab and deputy director of the International Center for Tourism and Hospitality Research at Bournemouth University Business School in England, and he has been also visiting professors in countless numbers of universities around the world. He is the editor-in-chief of the journal Tourism Review and the editor-in-chief of the Encyclopedia of Tourism Management and Marketing. He is the author of 25 books and 300 scientific articles, and he is one of the most cited authors and scientists in the world in his field, with almost 60,000 citations and an H-index which is 102, which I can tell you with academic standards is not high, is absolutely massive and something which is truly impressive. Professor Buhalis is an international authority, well recognized and well respected in his field. It's an honor to have him with us, and his presentation will be in English, and he will take questions, of course, in both languages at the end and discuss in both languages at the end. And he will give us a very big background regarding the element of tourism and hospitality, focusing later on issues related to application of modern technologies in tourism and the implications that this has for our two countries, Cyprus and Greece, where tourism is one of the most important, if not the most important industry. Professor Buhalis, a warm welcome, and you have the floor.
Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για την πρόσκληση και για την ευκαιρία που μου δίνετε να παρουσιάσω κάποια από αυτά τα πράγματα. Να σας χαρώ και εγώ από τη μεριά μου που ξεκινήσατε αυτή την πρωτοβουλία Είμαι μέρος της κοινότητας κάμια 25 χρόνια σχεδόν, από τότε που ο παπάς που άρχισε να έρχεται στο Πανεπιστήμιο του Σάριο όταν ήμουν ακόμα εκεί, και μας μάζεψε όλους στο Kingston και από τότε δεν πάμε πουθενά άλλου. Γιατί κάνει μια εξαιρετική διακονία και βεβαίως και όλοι εσείς που υπηρετείτε την κοινότητα έχετε ένα θεάρεστο έργο το οποίο αναγνωρίζετε παντού. Να το κάνω ελληνικά ή αγγλικά, κύριε Παπαλόη?
Όπως εσείς θέλετε.
Δεν είναι indifferent, το κάνουμε και στα δύο.
Εάν οι διαφάνειες σας είναι στα αγγλικά, καλύτερα στα αγγλικά και η συζήτησή μας να είναι και στις δύο γλώσσες.
Ωραία. So the difficulty when you're trying to do things like that is that you've got people who have got different level of understanding and familiarity with some of the terminology and some of the issues that we're discussing. Obviously, we've got Nikos here, and I'm very glad that he's joining us from Madrid, and he's an expert. So he'll find a lot of these things familiar, but hopefully will give him a little bit of incentive and food for thought. But I've tried to make the whole presentation on elementary levels, and I really want to go quickly through a lot of slides with a lot of pictures, and then to open the discussion for everybody that will have questions. I'm absolutely certain that people will have questions, and I'm absolutely certain that people don't have the opportunity to ask questions about tourism often. Because what's happening is that everybody thinks that they know tourism because they've been to places, they've stayed in hotels, they've traveled on planes, on ferries, by car, whatever, and they feel familiar with the environment. But quite often they don't know what's happening on the background. It's like me coming to a hospital, and I stayed with my mother in a hospital for 3 months, but I was fully aware. I was absolutely not expert on anything. I could observe things, but there were reasons of things that were happening that someone has to explain. So I think this is an opportunity to actually do that. And I'm not going to stick only to technology for tourism because this is the advanced kind of stuff. But we'll start from a little bit early on. So if I can share my screen and see if we can see my screen, then I think we'll be in a position to follow some of these things in more detail. I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Perfectly.
Okay. So basically, this is what I've been doing in the last few years. I've been editing the Tourism Review, which is the most established journal in tourism. It started in 1946. Not from me, obviously, and it aims to bring the best tourism research out. And during COVID, when everybody was disappearing from the world, I spent 2 years creating the Encyclopedia of Tourist Management and Marketing. And I really want you to look at this picture because you'll see this again. It brought a little bit of Greece on the forefront, and also brought the culture, and brought the sunset, brought the crowd management, a lot of the issues that we'll be discussing. And in terms of technology, one of my latest book is on gamification for tourism, and that's some of the things that we'll be discussing today. So a little bit of the marketing, tourism review, and the Encyclopedia of Tourism Management and Marketing. Please have a look on this picture. You'll see that this again. And the other books that they've just been published is the Smart Cities and Tourism, because smartness is something that we'll discuss in a minute. But smart cities are now coming to support smart tourism and the share economy and the tourism industry. Now, when we're talking about the sharing economy, we're talking about Airbnb, we're talking about Uber, and all the impacts that this has got in the tourism industry, but also in society in general. And the gamification, I'll talk about that. So one of the proudest moments, recent proud moments, is to get the 4 volumes of the encyclopedia in my hands. This is 3,500 pages with 1,250 entries and 1,500 authors. That's a 2 million pages project. And the summary in the front brought the pyramid, and the pyramid brought a couple of things. So this is what we call in tourism the tourism system, and this is the basis of everything we do. This is coming from someone called Neil Lipier, who passed away some years ago. He was in Australia, a very good colleague, who said that there is a travel generating region. This is where the customers are coming from, and they would like to go to the tourism destination region. This is where you would like to go. So Greece and Cyprus will primarily be seen as a tourism destination region, but equally, they've got people who are traveling outside, so they're also a travel generating region. And then you've got the transit region in the middle, which is what connects basically the travel generating region and the tourism destination region. And here you've got intermediaries, you've got information technology, you've got transportation, and you've got accessibility. Now, for the tourism system to operate, you are using resources. This is the fuel of the tourism industry. So you're using environment, you're using natural resources, you're using economic resources, human capital, social capital. All of those things are coming in. They are processed in the tourism system, and the outcome of this is value. And the value is being distributed to the different stakeholders. From a consumer point of view, you get satisfied customers that they went away and they came back happy. They may be relaxed, they may have learned something, they may have got married, whatever the purpose of their travel was. In terms of the local population, you are getting resources, you are getting money. That this money can be used in um, health, in education, in all the things that you've got, the building infrastructure, improving the quality of life. So this is what we call the tourism system. And in order for the tourism system to be successful, we need to look into what resources do we utilize for the value co-creation and to establish equitable returns for those resources utilized. So when we're using things, we're using the beach, we're using the forest, we're using an archaeological site. We need to have returns on that utilization to make sure that this is sustainable and make sure that we are creating value for all the different people out there. Now, in order for the tourism system to operate, you need planning, management, and strategy for both inbound and outbound tourism. You've got market forces where we understand what's happening in the marketplace and we create value systems and value chains to make sure that everybody is coming together and then they can operate in a sustainable way to develop tourism and to operate the market properly. Then you've got exogenous variables, which is the things that influence tourism, like politics, like peace and war, ethics, morality, ideas. And now, of course, pandemics was and health was a very big thing there, and all the other things that they are influencing the consumer behavior and what people are doing. And finally, you've got technologies and the what I call the infrastructure, which is basically the base of operating the industry. So you've got an info space, an infrastructure that creates the basis where everything plugs and plays and everything interconnects with everything else. Now, I appreciate this is a very complex kind of graph, but tourism is a very, very complex area. And I would like to invite you to download this, the introduction to and the statement of the editor of the encyclopedia. We've made sure that we've got it free, so everybody can access that. And if you've got access to a library, I would like you to recommend the encyclopedia so they can have it in their places. Now, when we're talking about tourism in Greece, if I go around and I talk about tourism to different people, the first thing that they think is Santorini or something like that. White, beautiful houses. And the next thing they think is, how can I be part of this? How can I enjoy being part of this conversation? So this is me about 3 or 4 weeks ago in Santorini, part of a cruise where we end up there for a minute. Now, often, so this is leisure tourism. Um, Quite often we forget business tourism, and this is a conference we organized in Nicosia in Cyprus in January 2019. This is Savas Perdios, who was at the time he was the Minister of Tourism in Cyprus. He had the good uh, will to come and speak to our conference, and he did a very nice contribution. And we're 300 people in Cyprus enjoying. So this is what we call MICE, meeting, incentives, conference, and exhibitions. This is what we call business tourism. This is other business things. 3 weeks ago, they gave me an award. So I was in Athens with these nice people collecting that award. And this is something that we're doing in Saudi Arabia currently as part of a World Bank effort to bring expertise of tourism in Saudi Arabia. And this is with the Deputy Minister in Riyadh about 3 months ago, giving them knowledge on these areas. Now, it's quite uh, it's quite interesting that tourism is an ambassador of a whole range of things. Tourism is an ambassador of culture. So, when I was in Greece recently, I took this picture with eating arakas, and I said, "This is Greece in one plate," because that kind of ladera, that kind of food, and frappe on the other side in Costa Navarino in the summertime brings that sense of place and gives the identity of the place. Equally, I just realized that there's a gastronomia με καρπούζι that is organized in Cyprus. The Association of Chefs in Cyprus have just invited me to go to this event that they're gonna be playing with karpouzi, with watermelon, and do different things. So food and agriculture and everything else is partly it's related directly with tourism because it gives us the background and enables us to differentiate the product. Now, I'll give you a range of different tourism activities so you can understand what kind of different things they are. So, here you've got Mecca and people who are traveling for pilgrimage. This in China, we're doing the Smart Tourism Conference in 2015. This is domestic red tourism, as they call it in China, about communism. This is tourists going to Tokyo in 2020 to watch the Olympics. This is people going on sightseeing and in different places, and also it's very interesting to see a dog there because one of my latest research projects was about pets and how pets travel. This is people who are going to Santorini for wedding photography, and people who are going on to Thailand on leisure tourism. So people are traveling for a whole range of different motivations, from sports, for attending events, for education, for heritage, for nature, for health activities, for religious activities, for sightseeing, for shopping, for meetings and conventions, and for passive leisure. Quite often, people combine a whole range of things. So 2 weeks ago, I was in New Orleans on a conference, the Academy of Marketing conference. But of course, we did a lot of sightseeing. We ended up doing a lot of, there's somewhere that says culture here, I'm not sure where it is, but we ended up in jazz clubs and we ended up being in a couple of churches and we did a little bit of shopping as well. So all of these things are coming together. Now, tourism has been one of the developments for the global economy for about 40 years. 40 years we had uninterrupted growth and with two minor reductions because of SARS back in 2003, but this was localized in Asia, and the global economic crisis in 2009 saw a reduction of 4% of the global tourism development. But as you can see, the growth for 40 years, growth has been almost grounded to about 4%, and then we reach 2020 and then COVID is happening, and COVID almost destroyed tourism. It reduced the international tourism to minus 74%. Depending on the different regions, the more you were in Asia, the more you had a reduction of tourism, and 1.1 billion people did not travel. um, COVID was catastrophic for a whole range of reasons, and was personally it was a very very complicated period where my mother was dying, and then my sister was dying, and then um, I went to Hong Kong for a year, and I was working there, and I had to do 3 weeks of quarantine. I stayed in a hotel, and I was not allowed to get out of my room. So this was prison basically for 3 weeks. And of course, the activity was happening. So I was still teaching, and you can see improvising with my suitcase there, because I was doing. We learned how to do a lot of activities without traveling. And I came out very early, calling the industry for humanity, solidarity, leadership, and resilience. Those four words. We had to actually train the industry very quickly how to react to unprecedented situations where you've lost all your market, you have lost all your customers, you have lost all your money, your cash flow was going crazy. You had to employ people, or you had to fire people, and people didn't know what they'll be doing, and this is something that we're paying now because we lost a lot of the human resource that was available in this industry. This is a picture from Bournemouth Airport, where a lot of the British Airways aircraft was parked there for a long time. So we had a very very difficult situation that affected everybody around the world. And of course, the operating procedures changed dramatically. So we had to business as unusual. We had to operate with protocols that were incredibly difficult, and these people were heroes to actually operate in that kind of situation and engage in these things. And for the first time, everybody realized how important tourism is. This is Babounis in Naxos. Um, and I went to see them the year after, and you'll see the pictures later. But one of the things, so I was about to buy arsenicotsis from Babounis, and I said to him, if I buy 3 kilos, would you give me a better, or 5 kilos? Would you give me a better price? And he said, look, last year I didn't have any money to survive and feed my kids. And then everybody realized that tourism is not actually only about the tourism industry, but everybody in destinations suffered dramatically. And this is not this is so evident in places that actually survive on tourism, like Bali, where here it says no food, no tourism, because you were going to Ubud and you were going to places in Bali where people didn't have any opportunity actually to survive without that. Many places have closed. This is the Cairns Puzakai Aboriginal Cultural Park that is a little bit outside Brisbane. Again, it had to close and never came back. Hopefully, we've put all this time behind us, and we can see with herd immunity and resilience and smart solutions the way forward. Now, the situation currently is like that, where you can see that there's a growth every year, and we are almost at the levels of 2019 as far as tourism arrivals is concerned, especially in Europe. In Asia, it's still lagging behind. China was until recently very close, so a lot of those things are quite difficult to recover. But hopefully, in 2023, by the end of 2023, we'll be able to operate in a more normal kind of way. Now, places like Greece came out and said, all you want is Greece. And they tried to get a lot of people to go to these nice places. And then what happened immediately is what we call revenge traveling. People start traveling to places that they haven't traveled for a couple of years. They had mental problems, they had all kind of issues, and they really, really want to travel. And of course, as soon as I was able to travel in summer 2021, I went to Naxos. And you remember what was in the encyclopedia on the cover, right? This is the temple of God Apollo, and I really want to go and pay respect for um, for for bringing the encyclopedia out in these very very difficult times. So you can see the encyclopedia, and you can see the real example and a glass of wine. Um, Now let me see if I can play this here. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Okay, this is the current this is the current campaign of the Greek National Tourism Organization. Please go to Greece and enjoy that. That please do not do what this person is doing. It's absolutely irresponsible to show to people how to jump out of jump into the sea, because this is where accidents are happening. And definitely do not do the prickling fruit. I've done Fragoska last summer, and I still remember how painful that was. So please do not do that at home. You can do the rest of it. So for many places, tourism is not optional. Specifically for remote places, for insular places, rural and peripheral regions, because we absolutely need to be able to do tourism for the community to survive. The good thing is that we are blessed with assets, products, brands that enable us to co-create experience with the local residents through differentiation and authenticity. That enables us to attract customers and to engage in many different ways. But what we've learned with COVID is that we really need to look forward, and the past is becoming irrelevant. So we need to operate in very different ways in the future. And agility is perhaps the most critical element of what we should be doing in order to survive in the tourism industry. Now, a lot of people don't understand why we do tourism. In fact, we don't, people, when I ask people in different communities, or when I ask people in my class, do we really want tourists around? Or are they a painful experience? Or should we expect, the people from the north to send the people in the south a big fat brown envelope with a lot of money and ask them to stay at home? And that's a very interesting question, because in reality we invite people to come to our area, but we've got our specific ways of living, and we would like them to respect our way of living rather than their own way of living. And in some places that's a big difference. So strategies for destinations need to be: how can I create competitive advantage through differentiation to enhance and maintain the destination image, to nurture new business models through innovation and investment, and to bring optimization of resources to the place, because you're going to have negative impacts, but you really need to have optimization. So you need to have more positive impacts to reduce the impact of the negative effects. And the most important thing is that we're doing tourism for the residents, for the communities. We are not doing communities for tourism. I said that in the award ceremony in Greece recently. I had to do a short speech, and I said, tourism for Greece, not Greece for tourism. This is really, really important to understand um, uh, the mechanics of this and how it works. And of course, this is based on many years of research. And I published that 20 years ago on the marketing the competitive destination of the future. This is the most cited paper in tourism in the world. It has got more than 6,000 citations, only this paper. Because it explains what strategies destinations have got, and how basically tourism should contribute to sustainable development goals. And the sustainable development goals that we're supposed to reach by 2030. Of course, now they are delayed, but this is what should be guiding us. So, this was the introduction to tourism before I spend a little bit of time talking about technology and smartness and how the new technological developments are changing dramatically the way that we operate in the future and the opportunities and the challenges that those are going to bring. I've got to put the disclaimer. I'm an evangelist and I'm a positive person, so I see technology as a positive kind of contribution to tourism rather than I'm not looking for trouble. There are other people who are looking for critical ways of analyzing the impact of technology, but I'm looking into what technology can do for us. Um, and I'm an old guy. I start from Steve Jobs, the creativity is just connective things. And I bought the first computer that he bought. I don't know if you can see that on the right hand side is my first computer. It's the first Apple. It didn't have a hard disk. It only had the floppy disk, and then I had to buy a second a machine that was an external driver for the floppy disks. Those of you who are less than 30 years old, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But those of you who are a little bit older and you used to carry floppy disks around, you'll remember what I'm talking about. This is my friend George, the computer that he had. He had 20 megabyte hard disk at the time, and that was revolutionary. And also, it was a laptop, so he can move it around. We're talking about 87 here. Okay, fast forward. Smartness is all these technologies that are coming together to bring interconnectivity and interoperability of all the integrated technologies to re-engineer process and data in order to produce innovative services, products, and procedures towards maximizing the value for all the stakeholders. Smartness really is not about technology, it's about the interconnectivity of the network that you have, because the tourism industry is not an industry of individuals. It's a network of individuals that come together, that they work together in order to be able to deliver the value and the experience. So when you're going Cyprus on holiday, you rely on an airline to bring you there, then a taxi to take you to your hotel, then the hotel to look after you in terms of your sleeping. But you're probably going to be going around many cultural heritage places. You're going to be going to the sea, to the mountains, to the spa. You'll be going to a lot of restaurants, bars, different kind of archaeological sites. All of these things are individual properties that they've got individual value chains, and somehow technology needs to bring all of them together. So smartness is the glue of interoperable and interconnected and mutually beneficial systems and stakeholders that they provide the infrastructure for all of these things to work together. So it supports networks to create interoperability and interconnectivity. It brings the Internet of Things and the Internet of Everything. It brings sensors and beacons. So sensors are collecting information, big data, and beacons are projecting information. It brings big data and data analytics. It uses social media, Web 2, and user-generated content, technological enablers, and service dominant logic to co-create experience and bring value to everybody who is on the competition. To do that, you have got a pyramid of personal experiences. So you've got the physical layer where things are happening. Then you've got the data layer where you analyze what's happening. Then you've got the technical layer where you interconnect different things. And then you've got the business layer that makes the business models and the value chains operate in a way that will enable things to happen. And that creates the experience layer where everything's interconnected together. Increasingly, we're going towards a situation where technology is surrounding what we do, and we all have our mobiles and we've got all our technology coming together. And then you've got what we call customer centricity. Customer centricity is really the customers being in the center. And then you've got all this technology like Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything, 5G, RFID, wearables, APIs, cryptocurrencies, sensors and beacons, pervasive computing, gamification, and artificial intelligence and machine learning. All of these things working together interoperably in order to support the customer. So what's happening is that people are bringing their persona in the marketplace, and they've got their internal context, the things that they like and they don't like, abilities, disabilities, topics of interest, all of those things. And there's an external context of what's happening currently. So location, weather, social environment, season, political situation, traffic, emergencies, air pressure, lights, all of those things are happening together. So I'll give you an external context that happened yesterday. So in location Bournemouth, you may have seen the news of the tragic death of the two kids that they were on the beach yesterday. I happened to be there. I was in a research meeting and I just came out just in time when the helicopters were coming for the rescue operation. And I took a lot of pictures. And if you see most of the pictures that on the media, on ITV, and most of the media around are mine. Uh, but the context was that the location was in the Bournemouth beach. The weather was wonderful. It was very warm, and people were swimming and everything. And all of a sudden, there is an accident, an emergency that changed the whole environment. So the beach was closed off. There's a lot of activity in terms of rescue. There are a lot of things that were happening. And of course, the tragic event of the loss of life of the two young people. So the internal context and the external context influence what's happening here, which is the co-creation of experience that is based on the needs of the travelers and the travel industry on the other side. And then with the big data and the connectivity and the smartness, we've got a range of devices where we interconnect all of these things so we can maximize the value that is being created for all the different stakeholders. I wish I had a lot of more time to explain to you in detail, but that's why I'm giving you all the references so you can read things if you're more interested, so you can ask any questions and we can talk about it. Now, increasingly, we see that people used to switch off their mobiles, they used to switch off their technology and go on holiday and escape from everything. Increasingly what we see is that people are having both face-to-face and online social contacts at the same time. So people are going around, they're taking pictures, they upload on social media, they're streaming, they're talking to their friends online, they're talking to local people offline, and all of this becomes almost intuitive because we're doing it without realizing. Out of this, we've created a typology of different travelers, all the way from those who arrive in a hotel and they switch off their mobile, they put their mobile and their computer on the safety box, and they don't open it until they go away, all the way to those people who are constantly interacting across different platforms. And again, that has got a major impact on the way that people enjoy the destinations, they enjoy their traveling experience, they co-create value. And what do we do with all the different players in the marketplace to support them with services? And that brings the issue of what we call now. And nowness is about real-time services, because if you understand what is happening in your context in real time, and you can have predictive um, uh, offerings, meaning that I understand what's going to happen in 3 hours time. It's going to rain, and it's going to be, the weather is going to be not good to be outside. I may do something. But if I know that in the next 4 or 5 days the weather will be glorious and there will be sunshine, I may organize barbecues, and I may invite my friends, and I may travel to different locations. So a lot of the what we call nowness is based on real-time co-creation, and that brings us a whole range of opportunities to address this. Because what's happening is that nowness is primarily data-driven, consumer-centric, experience-enhanced, real-time co-creation. So we can maximize the value that we offer to different stakeholders based on the context, with a view of creating instant gratification. And instant gratification means that we co-create competitive advantage, not only on price and in differentiation as we used to do before. So you either will buy something cheap or you'll buy something that's remarkably different. But increasingly, you create differentiation, competitive advantage based on the ability to support something in real time. So just in terms of time, if I give you the right product at the right time, it doesn't matter if it's more expensive and it doesn't matter if it's more different, but because I give that to you at the right time, that gives you instant gratification. Now, I like to take you to the future, and the future is where we are going to be going, uh, and that will um, that the tourism industry will need to understand that in order to do future proofing of the industry. And I think the big questions and the big issues here is the ambient intelligence, the smart cities and the smart tourism, the artificial intelligence and the chat GPT that we've been experiencing in the last 4 or 5 months, the robots, the bots, the autonomous devices, and the drones, and what we call hybrid living and traveling, which is about metaverse and how we're going to be living a digital life and a normal life. Increasingly, you see robots around in different places. This is Pepper, the robot in Munich Airport. This is in the New Century Grand Hotel in Hangzhou in 2019 that was following me and was bringing room service. This is last year in Hong Kong. That's called Rise. That was spreading around different people and to disinfect people from COVID. And there are other types of robots like Alexa and the voice activated robots. And again, we're doing research on this, on what you're using at home, what you're using in a hotel, and what can you bring from home to the hotel. So you've got an easy transition. You're bringing what you're using from home into your hotel. Things like music, light controls, television controls. If I'm going to Korea, I don't necessarily want to watch Korean television. I would rather watch the films or the series I'm watching in Greek, and bring it over. And this is also some of the new technologies that will be robotics that will be part of delivering what we're doing. And so this is in Hong Kong. It's actually dancing once it's delivering a tea to you. And the final thing is metaverse. And if you see the timeline where we started with technology and tourism in the 1960s, and now we're going towards 2020s, we are looking into what we call digital life and twin life, which is basically you replicate your normal life into your digital life. And what's going to happen is that you're going to have digital experience in parallel to real experiences. um, and you see that we went through conventional experience to technology assisted experience to technology enhanced experience to technology empowered experience with artificial intelligence, with augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. And now we're getting to technology illusive experience, where technology is creating illusion and immersion. So immersion means that you're going to be able to travel to a Greek island without traveling to a Greek island, a little bit like when people are playing games, but it will be an immersive experience, and you'll almost be able to have a fake experience by experience that by through technology. And there's many reasons for people that they may be doing that, and they can be doing it before traveling, so they can understand and they can choose the right product and services. So we're looking at different hotels, different islands, and then you choose which one you like to go. When you're going to the island, you may, when you're going to the destination, you may use metaverse to experience things that are happening in the past. So if you're going to Acropolis, you just see stones and you see some sculptures and you're seeing some structures, but actually you're trying to imagine what was happening in the past. Imagine that you had a machine that was enabled you to teleport you back to 6,000 years ago and be part of what you're seeing there and understand better what you're actually seeing. And then collectively, you are taking a lot of this data forward into memory, digital memories, and you can relieve these digital memories, and you can go back into your trips and to your friends and explore the ways that you have experienced in the past in a different time. So we can see metaverse happening in before, during, and after the physical meeting. We don't see metaverse as a way of replacing the actual meeting, but we see that as a way of enhancing the meeting. And there is a huge industry now, and the industry needs to develop a whole range of different tools to be addressing this. So consumers will be coming in with different needs and wants and demographics and the travel history and the different requirements, and we need to be able to address their needs before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. And all the different parts of the tourism industry need to be able to deliver solutions in order to be doing that. But also the community and the peers will be playing a very important role on that. So community and friends will be part of this because they'll be interacting dynamically. Travel experts, tour operators, travel agents, travel influencers, all of those things. Other travelers that they happen to travel in the same place, in local people that happen to be in destination, and they would like to meet and exchange information and socialize. And the last bit is the bit that's more scary than all is artificial intelligence. These are two ladies I met in Hong Kong last year. One was an expert um, on technology, the lady on the red, and the obviously the nurse on the right hand side was a health expert, and she was doing a full assessment of my health based on information that she was asking me, and we had a very interesting conversation. um, a lot of people would have seen the chat gpt and how you're using technology in the chat gpt. I've just written an article on this with another 35, 40 people from around the world, that we're trying to define what it is and how it's be used. So on the one side you've got consumers and demand, on the other side you've got the supply. And what you'll find is that on the demand side, people will be using ChatGPT and generative technology to look for information, plan for their trips, and make the most of their services, to search for information, to eliminate choice and choose the right things, select suitable timetables, and evaluate alternative products and services, to create context dependent dynamic itineraries, meaning that they're going to change according to things that are changing on the environment. Um, and instead of using search engines like Google, they'll be using that kind of services. And equally, they'll be looking for opportunities to combine a range of different resources and to provide comprehensive answers based on text that will enable them to interact in natural and native language. So, ChatGPT, you can operate in Greek, or in Korean, or in Brazilian, or in any other language that you might like. From a supply point of view, it will enable the tourism, transport, hospitality organizations with many different customer facing back office operations. So, ChatGPT will be answering a lot of questions that people have got about the destinations, about the things that they like to know. They'll be assisting with bookings and reservations. They'll be providing guests with information about availability and pricing. They'll be assisting on the booking. And then increasingly they'll be personalizing and individualizing the itineraries and the interest to make sure that people get better value out of what they are engaging. And then they'll communicate with travelers in multiple languages, obviously 24/7, and they'll be also creating marketing content, and pictures and text for brochures, for websites, for social media, and they'll be developing menus. They'll be creating experiences to support the operations. Now, I did a very similar presentation yesterday in India, and I talked to them about Kalamata, and I said when I talk to people about Kalamata, the first thing that they have in mind is the Kalamata olives, and I said from there, if you want to travel to Kalamata, you really need to engage with the destination, and you really need to understand what is available in Kalamata and what would you like to do and how to select the right things. So from the olives to a hotel, there's a little bit of a distance, and that's what technology is helping us to do. So I tried to compare itinerary building in Google and in ChatGPT. That's probably 2 months ago. So this would have changed by now. But this is the question I ask: is what can tourists with kids do in Kalamata? And of course, Google is coming back with a range of different links, and they allow you or they encourage you to go into the links and trying to find out what do you want to find out. But of course, you're on your own because you need to look for the how good those links are and choose how you like to play with them. When you ask the same question to ChatGPT, it's coming out with a range of offers and suggestions that they are um, naturally produced in a textual format in the language that you like, on the language that you understand. That is a huge advantage that's emerging in these kind of things. Then I ask other questions like, what is the way to travel from Bournemouth to Glasgow in March, and what is the cost? And again, I had all kind of answers here. And then you can interrogate more. How long does it take to drive from Bournemouth to Glasgow, and how much does it cost? And again, I had an answer in seconds. Then, because some of the research I'm doing is about people with disabilities, I ask, as a blind tourist, what can I do in Paris? And again, that's a very personalized kind of itinerary based on braille maps and based on touch tours and accessible public transport and accessible parks and all of the things that the blind person will find to navigate Paris. And I asked, can you please give me a Greek gluten-free food? Again, gave me a range of different recipes that they are gluten-free Greek food. This is I'll show you two of my friends that they've done different things. This is Mr. Lee. What he did is he created the Mr. Lee collection, hotel collection, and so Lee Malone used Mid Journey, ChatGPT, and Canva to create a new hotel chain, a concept for a hotel chain that is based on volcano and hotels nearby a volcano, because he was going to a volcanic area, and he created the brochure, he created the concept and how um, the the rooms would need to look like, and what kind of experience they can do. And this Christos Ditoras, who is coming from Parga in Greece, that he said, produce images of Parga in Greece in the outer space. And Microsoft Bing did a range of different images. I like this one. But the important thing is that all of these things are happening in seconds rather than wait for a graphic designer to do it over a long period of time. So that's it. I try to keep it as short as possible to give you an introduction of the basic things, and also to take you through to a little bit more advanced things that we are doing now in my research lab in terms of using tourism and technology, cutting edge technologies for generating value in tourism. So back in the encyclopedia, the books that are currently out, and this is how you connect with me. You can Google me on Buhalis. You'll probably find me immediately, or you can go into buhalis.com or Facebook, on LinkedIn, Twitter, WeChat, WhatsApp, whatever you have. I'll be there. Thank you very much. I'll stop here. I don't know how many people I killed, and whether we have got any people.
Apologies, I had my microphone closed. I was saying that, dear Professor Buhalis, dear Dimitris, I think I speak on behalf of all of us in saying that this was an absolutely fantastic lecture. And you took us from the very, very basic concepts all the way to the most complicated ones in relation to tourism, and that in the context of two countries like Greece and Cyprus that rely massively on it. I will keep as a soundbite coming out of this webinar what you said, that it should be tourism for Greece and Cyprus, not Greece and Cyprus to be for tourism, which makes an enormous amount of difference and that sets the philosophy of the whole thing on the right basis. And before I open it to our friends who are in the webinar, and there are quite a few, to questions, I have two questions for you. The first one is you spoke about smart cities that need to be there if it is to embrace tourism in the 21st century. How do you see this in combination with exactly what we said, that it should be tourism for the countries and not countries for tourism? What kind of smart infrastructure you foresee in place so that the concept can be respected and at the same time tourism flourishes?
Okay. Smart cities have been developed especially on big cities, on places that they've got a lot of different people. And in smart cities, an essential element of managing big places where you've got a lot of citizens that they need a lot of services. Services from anything, from schooling, health, rabbis, all the normal transportation, all the normal services that people use in different places. Now, tourism is a layer of the smart city. So basically, you have got. Let's talk about Thessaloniki. You've got Thessaloniki, and Thessaloniki is creating the smart infrastructure for the Thessaloniki residents. And then on top of that, you've got a layer of that that's addressing the needs of the travelers. Some of the infrastructure and some of the places that people are using, both of them are using. For example, the museums, for example, the church, for example, in different areas, there'll be dual use, transportation is dual use. But of course, tourists will be using them in a different way than the locals. And also, tourists are naive. They are what we call destination naive. They go for the first time. They may not speak the language. They may not have the currency. They don't know where to get tickets. They don't know where to find itineraries. So I said Thessaloniki, that a lot of people kind of feel familiar with. But if I say Uvaskila, you don't know where it is. Never mind about finding out how to get there and where to buy a local ticket and how to operate in an environment like that. By the way, it's in Finland. It's in middle of Finland in the lake region. It's quite a nice place, but you need a lot of information to be able to operate in this environment. So it's rather complicated. But smart cities are services for the citizens, and then smart tourism is the layer that is connecting the smart tourism business with the smart tourism consumers that they happen to be in the place.
Thank you so much. And my second question, before we ask colleagues to have their questions, is in your professional academic experience, has the whole philosophy, the whole approach of people to tourism changed after the COVID-19 pandemic? And I'm not talking in the sense of using masks or washing their hands and using antiseptic, but in the context, do they want to visit different places? Do they want to do different things or connect with people in a different way post-pandemic?
There are two or three things happened. So when I prevent you from eating pasta for a long time, when you're able to eat pasta, you eat too much pasta. So we have something that's called revenge traveling right now because people have missed traveling so much. And they also, in the past, we used to take travel for granted. Everybody could travel, the prices were very, very low, and everybody could jump on a plane and go somewhere. And all of a sudden, when that was taken away, people went absolutely crazy about traveling. Their mental health suffered dramatically. They couldn't meet their loved ones, they couldn't fulfill their obligations. I say to people, I miss the funeral of my mother and the funeral of my sister. I've done both of these things on streaming because of COVID. So you can imagine what happened afterwards. People had such a huge demand to travel, and immediately they had to travel. So we've got the revenge traveling. The other thing that happened is that people realize that they don't need 50 pairs of shoes. So they start saving, and they start getting money to go and travel, because they understand that this is much more important for their fulfillment in life. So um, that was the immediate thing that happened for the demand. But we came out from a situation of the COVID. We came to a war situation where the energy costs have been super expensive. Inflation went to 10%. That was unprecedented. The cost of living went up. The cost of traveling went massively up. So almost double the prices. Those of you who are looking for holidays, those of you who are looking for flights, you realize how much more you need to pay right now because of all that. So, and the other thing that happened is that we lost the employees. A lot of the employees in the tourism industry, because they couldn't actually make a living, they move into other industries, and then they realize how difficult it is to work in tourism, because it's quite complicated. It's seasonal. It is dependent on so many different variables, and moved into more resilient kind of jobs. So these are the very good thing that happened with COVID is that governments for the first time realized how important tourism is, because again they were taking for granted. You know, places like Cornwall in the UK, they suffered massively with COVID when the places were closed. But then when the places could open because of staycation, because the UK has got a big market, they went from 0 to 500% immediately. So we've been experiencing a yo-yo effect, really, that is influencing a whole range of different things. But consumers, going back to your question, consumers are much more keen to travel and engage in tourism experience.
And the two things to say, the proof that we have this revenge traveling, as you said, is the fact that despite the increase in the cost of living, the trajectory of traveling and tourism is to the northeast, clearly, looking at the graphs that you presented to us. So this is remarkable. And I'm delighted that you mentioned that the fact that people could not travel, it was a mental health issue as well. Because it's not only about the leisure or going to a nice place and have a glass of wine and sleep in a nice hotel, it's a much more holistic experience, tourism. It's about human contact, it's about the human experience, and when you miss it, really affects people's personality. So
And
massively important.
And equally, the communities. You know, I showed you the guy who is producing cheese in Naxos. I showed you the markets in Bali. I showed you many communities were not able to survive without tourism. Also, culture, theater, music, all of these things suffered dramatically, because if you take the tourists out of London, you know, the theaters are empty, the museums are empty. So all of this was immediately evident, which we always take tourists for granted, always.
Thank you so much. And I can see some very flattering comments coming up in the chat about the presentation. But if colleagues would like to ask any questions, οποιοδήποτε θέλει να ρωτήσει κάποια ερώτηση, να κάνει κάποιο σχόλιο, μπορείτε να ανοίξετε το χέρι.
Καλό είναι να ανοίξουμε και κάμερες, έτσι να γνωριστούμε λίγο
καλύτερα. Ναι, μπορείτε να ανοίξετε τις κάμερες, γιατί τώρα είμαστε στη φάση της συζήτησης, για να μπορούμε να δούμε και τα πρόσωπα, αν έχετε την καλοσύνη και την ευκαιρία. Κάποια ερώτηση που θα ήθελα να ρωτήσει κάποιος, ακόμα και αν δεν μπορείτε να σηκώσετε το μικρό τεχνητό χέρι, μπορείτε να σηκώσετε το αληθινό σας χέρι ή να μιλήσετε. The good old-fashioned way. Ο κύριος Μανσόλας.
Ναι, θα θέλαμε να ευχαριστήσουμε Ας το πούμε στα αγγλικά, μιας και μιλάγαμε, we just wanted to thank Professor Buhalis for the insightful presentation and the information that he kindly shared with us. One question I would have, Professor Buhalis, is based on your research, what do you think is the greatest opportunity for the tourism in Greece and Cyprus to grow within the next 3 years, and using which strengths and which weaknesses we should manage in order to achieve that? Thank you very much, and would appreciate your response to that.
Thank you, Yanis. Define growth. What is growth? This is a very fundamental thing, because growth, if you see growth, I mean, normally the politicians, they count growth as the number of visitors who arrive in the place. But this is disaster. I can have millions of people coming to Bournemouth or to Naxos or to Athens to create havoc, but then that does not give me benefits. So for me, growth is really about positive contribution to community.
For me, I think is a combination of those, but I believe that, especially based on what I feel as resources in Greece, which is our soul, our civilization, I think is about loyalty. How we ensure that the experiences we provide to the tourists are so thriving, are so magnetic that they will come again and they will spread the message to their friends when they go back to their countries that this is the place you go, this is the experience you can live, this is the country you should go. That's for me is growth, focusing on the engagement and the loyalty.
Okay. So when you're promising something, you need to deliver it. So to get the satisfaction, you need to look into what do you deliver based on marketing, and see how is this delivered on the market. So if you see what the Greek National Tourism Organization is promising, it is promising different things in different places, but it's promising luxury, it's promising relaxing environment, it's promising safety without talking about safety, because safety is the basis. It's talking about a beautiful kind of environment. So the bare minimum is to meet what you are promising. Then to exceed and provide what you are talking about is how can we delight people, because the satisfaction is expected, delivered. Delight is how can I give you a better experience. To delight people, we need to create the opportunities for them to do self-actualization. So we need to provide them the opportunity to do things that they will satisfy them more than what they expected. Now, the good things and the bad things about Greece in particular. Cyprus a little bit different. Greece is phenomenal in creating wonderful experience where you don't expect it. And the more you go away from tourism regions, you find this old lady who is bringing you into the house and she gives you marmelada, jam that she did, handmade, and all the rest of it, or cuts fragosica and cuts them and gets you to taste them and things like that. Things that are unbelievable, because what's a memorable experience is something that touches you emotionally. And to touch you emotionally, you need to have real connection with people. Okay.
Great.
So what's happening is that Greece is very, very good at this, at doing it at an amateur level. The minute we're going professionally, you either have very, very good professionals that they are doing that in a very clever way, and they'll tell you, oh, don't go to this place, but go to this place, go at 7 o'clock and don't go at 5. Make sure that you are the first or go at the last, and I'll call John who knows Marius, and Marius is going to open the back door and all the rest of it. Incredible. And then you've got the other stuff that I don't care. I'm only working here. Here is a plate. And they also have a really bad infrastructure. We have pedestrian, pesodromia, pavements. You have got all the mess that is going. That is the basic things that we do not meet. Part of this cruise, I went to Mykonos, and I was really, really surprised how the infrastructure is not there. So you're creating all these kind of things. You're telling people you'll pay 1,000 euros per night, and but the infrastructure is not there. The transportation system is not there. And of course it's not there because Mykonos can operate in certain amount of people. The minute that you exceed that, you go into very small streets where two cars are coming that way and they stop that way. You add alcohol, you add all the other bad things that they're going with this kind of tourism, and immediately you've got a problem. So it's really complicated. So the first complication is what is growth and what is good tourism, good for whom, and how do we design that? And the second thing is how do you coordinate all the different stakeholders who have got conflicting interests to actually deliver something that you like? Because equally, all the tourists are not nice tourists. They are not. A lot of people would like to have everything for nothing. So I can have a lot of people who will come to many different places, and they'll do different things. But if they are not paying for it, and if they are not contributing the community, I'll give you an example from I think it was Nepal years and years ago, either Nepal or Bhutan. The Bhutanese people are very, very hospitable, and because they are up on the mountain, they'll take everybody in their house and all the rest of it. And Australians were taking advantage of it. So one of my ex-professors was telling us this story that they introduced a visa of $5,000 for travelers to Bhutan to cut down to people that they really wanted to go to Bhutan and make a contribution. And that's how they manage it. So different places obviously have got different needs, different carrying capacity, what we call carrying capacity, and they've got different ways of managing things. But ultimately, you need to have a plan, and you need to have regulation. You need to have a strong government, local, regional, national, with expertise and knowledge to actually manage these things. Unfortunately, in Greece, governments for many, many years, and I've been in this business for 40 years, have never actually had the technical expertise, and they never respected the technical expertise and the knowledge to operate. So they are amateurs, and they operate amateur magicians. They operate as they see fit, and then as they see political gain, and that's a disaster.
Θα ήθελα στο σημείο αυτό να παρακαλέσω τον κύριο Γκορφινόπουλο να κάνει ένα σχόλιο, γιατί βλέπω ότι στο chat γράφει σχετικά με το carrying capacity, που είναι ένα μεγάλο πρόβλημα τόσο στην Ελλάδα και πιστεύω ότι είναι παρόμοιο και στην Κύπρο. Γιατί έχουμε φτάσει σε ένα σημείο ίσως που το infrastructure έχει κορεστεί και δεν μπορεί να πάει περαιτέρω. Θα θέλατε να σχολιάσετε, κύριε Γκορφινόπουλε?
Γεια σας και από μένα. Γεια σας. Yes, I totally agree with, first of all, once again, Dimitris, you did an amazing presentation, and of course you added a lot of information and food for thought for many days actually to be discussing, and not just for some hours that we're here. I totally agree that the carrying capacity, it's a very big issue in Greece. I'm not very sure how it is evolving in Cyprus, but connecting this to what Dimitrios said, that in Greece, the management of the destinations are not being implemented by people who really know. This creates a lot of false practices that might destroy the overall experience of the traveler in the end. And this is something that you don't want to. But apart from the experience of the traveler that goes there to enjoy the destination, it's what is tourism giving back to the destinations? Is it positive impact? Is it negative? Is it both? And how you actually manage it? Because environmental concerns are very, very low. However, the environmental challenges are very high. So if we are not able to acknowledge the environmental impact that a tourist can have in a destination, then we are not even seeing the problem, let alone dealing with the problem. And then trying to create linkages between the economic impact that a tourist can have to a destination with the actual local societies. This is something that is being neglected as well. We're not having a planning system where we reassure that the value that I will bring as a tourist will reach the local societies that are most in need of this tourism dollar, as we say it. We are not trying to focus on tourism dispersion. We have destinations that are like packed with tourists, and then we have nearby destinations that are not receiving the tourist flows at all. And as Dimitrios said before, sometimes the authentic experience is when you go beyond the standard route that may have developed for you. So if we don't put all of these things on the table and understand, okay, the society might be reaching a level that they will start to complain about the level of tourist flows that they're receiving, or that the environmental impact that we might have to our maritime environment, or to our coastal environments that are being overexploited. These, in the end, if we don't take care of it, what we will have in 5 years or 10 years would be a degraded value, and therefore we will not be able to continue utilizing it. So we're talking about sustainability like it's a buzzword. Everybody's putting it on their in their speeches and everything, but the thing is, what do we actually do in order to reassure that? From UNWTO, and Dimitris presented that before, we're trying to see how tourists can contribute to all the SDGs, to the 17 SDGs that the United Nations has introduced. And I have yet to see that the projects that are being implemented now all around the world are taking into account this. I'm connecting this with that. Connecting this with this SDG or that SDG, because I understand that these are indicators that we all need to meet. And actually, this is referring to the carrying capacity as a whole. We should respect in the destinations that we have. I think that is a very big missed opportunity for Greece, because if we want to keep having development in Greece, and I'm differentiating growth and development. If we want to have development in Greece, we need to take that into account.
I'm just gonna put on the chat here a paper that we've just published on the 17 SDGs and how tourism is affecting them, both positive and negative. And the issues, Nico's absolutely right, and he's seen that all over the place and in many different places around the world on how these things operate. But I'll give you a little example. Most of the consultants and most of the people who have been dealing with these things, they are doing it in such a superficial way that they do not understand what they're talking about. So 3 weeks ago, I was in Santorini. So I arrived on a small cruise, on a very small cruise ship. And our cruise director said, look, guys, we're going to wake up at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm going to get you on the port at 7 o'clock. So you are first in everywhere you're going. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad experience. And she was absolutely right. And I said, why is that? Because they said there are 5 big cruise ships that are arriving in Santorini, and there'll be 10,000 people coming off these big cruise ships. So, and all of this is happening for a period between 10 o'clock in the morning and about 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've got a huge demand that is coming for 5 or 6 hours, and then you can get a trough. So is it good to have 10,000 people coming to Santorini? If you count the statistics, they say, yeah, we've got 10,000 people who came to Santorini. Most of these people had quite a lot of food. They had breakfast in the cruise ship. They had too much food, so they're not gonna buy any food. So my experience as a tourist in Ia, it was -2 knots because when I was going up, they gave me nuts to try and 1 spoon of ice cream, minus. I didn't buy anything. I didn't consume anything. I took away 2 nuts and a spoon of ice cream. Okay. If I had gone to the toilet, I would have taken away a liter of water as well. And that is the majority of the people who are doing it. And then I'm asking, but who is bringing these people here and why do you allow this? Then it's very complicated. It's really, really complicated, the power structures and who is doing what and what do we do. And unless you have got proper planning into place, and unless you have got a granular approach to sustainability, you know, everybody's talking about sustainability, but they expect the Pope to do it. Everybody else will do it. We're going to conferences, they're keeping the air condition to 18 degrees and everybody's wearing jackets and ties and they're freezing and they're talking about sustainability, right? And they're spending so much energy to reduce the and they give you plastic bottles of water. So we are talking about sustainability, but someone else to do it. It's really complicated. Let's open the conversation. Let's see questions from people.
I think you are not too far away from the end of the webinar. The discussion is fascinating, and I'm pretty sure we can go for another couple of hours, but you need to bring it slowly to a closure. My last question, Dimitri, will be regarding artificial intelligence. We had a fantastic lecture in the 4th webinar. This was our 5th webinar by Dr. Vasiliki Bouki, who put us into the concept of artificial intelligence very successfully. You mentioned clearly the advantages. Can you foresee any risks? Because a day doesn't go by without seeing somebody announcing Armageddon in the front of websites and newspapers because of the use of artificial intelligence. So I would like to have your views on that and then bring the webinar to a closure.
Look, this is not strictly speaking, it's not my area. But look, artificial intelligence is you are giving the power of thinking to machines. This can go wrong. But like in your profession, you know, in a medical profession, if you didn't have the machines, you wouldn't be able to do transplants. You wouldn't be able to do a whole range of things because you wouldn't have a person pumping, whatever oxygen or pumping whatever you're doing. I'm not pretending that I know what you're doing, but without the machines, you are not going to be able to do a lot of things. And artificial intelligence is bringing huge tools, but we are giving up 2 things. We're giving up human intelligence because we are not trained to do things. But this has happened before, you know, when we had calculators. If I'm asking you what is the square root of 139, you probably don't know. 30 years ago, you probably would be able to work it out. People do not know how to travel from Bournemouth to Oxford without using GPS or Google Maps or whatever. So, like any innovation, technological innovation that's coming forward, it has got risks. And we need to create legislation, regulation, and we need to work into how do we manage the machine that makes the decisions and how the decisions that the machine is making and the people who control the machine supporting the communities. And of course, I'm concerned. I hear all the arguments. I hear all the big issues, and the issues are there. But as I said, I'm an evangelist, so I'm looking to the positive kind of things. I showed you some examples. If you ask me where would you like to take my family to Kalamata, and what should I do if my mother is on a wheelchair and all the rest of it, as a tourism professional, it will take me probably half a day to come up with one comprehensive answer. With these tools, I'll come back in 20 minutes to you. So this is what the tools are bringing forward. So the question is, how can you not be excluded, and how can you learn how to operate the tools for the benefits of society and how can we make sure that we regulate the tools, that the tools support society. But like everything, every time the new technologies are coming out, there are people who are coming out and they say, oh my God, this is going to create this kind of problems. I mean, when the cars came out, people were saying, oh, it will kill people. And of course, cars are killing people, but equally, cars are taking us from one place to another. It's a matter of use. It's not a matter of tourists. A bad thing if it's not run properly, and it's a very good thing if it's run properly.
Thank you so very much. 1,5 ώρα πέρασαν πάρα πολύ γρήγορα και αν είχαμε ακόμα άλλες 2 ώρες, βλέπω πάλι και άλλα θέματα έρχονται στο chat, θα περνούσαν πολύ εύκολα. Θέλω να ευχαριστήσω εκ μέρους όλων μας τον καθηγητή, τον κύριο Μπουχάλη, για μια θαυμάσια παρουσίαση και μια πολύ ωραία συζήτηση, πάρα πολύ ενδιαφέρουσα συζήτηση. Μιλώντας για interconnectivity, ο κύριος Μπουχάλης είναι very well connected with the world. Μπορείτε να το προσεγγίσετε από το email, από το website, από τα social media και με πολύ σίγουρος, με πολύ χαρά θα απαντήσει τις ερωτήσεις σας. Το webinar θα είναι στην ιστοσελίδα μας και μπορείτε να το δείτε και να ενθαρρύνετε και άλλους να το δουν. Και πάλι τις πλέον θερμές μας ευχαριστίες στον κύριο Μπουχάλη για μια θαυμάσια εκδήλωση και θα περάσω το λόγο στον πρόεδρο της κοινότητάς μας, τον κύριο Κουνούπια, για να κλείσει την εκδήλωσή μας.
Ασφαλέστατα πρέπει να ευχαριστήσουμε τον καθηγητή, τον κύριο Μπουχάλη. Καταρχήν θα έπρεπε να μιλήσω στην αγγλική. Professor Buhalis, we are extremely grateful for your lecture. Erudite and interesting and educational to all of us. Really, it is an education to listen to such distinguished speakers who are experts in their fields, even though we like to think that we are the experts in everything. It's only when you come across a real expert that you realize just that, in fact, we are illiterate. The series of webinars will continue, and every time we close one, I have to say the same thing. I cannot see how the next one can maintain the standard that we have heard this evening. I said the same last month and the month before. Somehow they do. And for this, we are extremely grateful to my colleague and fellow trustee, Vasilis Babalois, who is the brains behind these webinars. We are so fortunate that within our community, we have a number of professors, a number of academics, and between us, we also know a number of people who are able. These webinars could continue now for years, given provided they have the necessary attendance. We've had a decent attendance this evening, and many people will also follow the webinar from our website once it has been posted. I would like to thank all of you who have attended the webinar this evening, especially those who are not members of our community. You are very welcome guests, and it's our pleasure to have had you with us this evening, and it will be an even bigger pleasure to have you with us in the future. Also to the members of our community who have followed the webinar, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And once again, Professor Buhalis, it was a pleasure. And thank you so much. And I wish you all well, and I wish you a good evening.
Thank you for your hospitality, for your invitation, and fantastic to be able to be with you. And hopefully we'll meet in person very soon, because it's good to be electronically, but I prefer in person at the end.
So do we all. Thank you
you
so much. And όλοι σας εύχομαι καλό βράδυ, καλό Σαββατοκύριακο. Γεια σας.
Να είστε καλά.